Hey, this is David Wynn with the Mortgage Edge podcast, brought to you by Click and Close Mortgage. Today, I have a great guest, James Brown. I want you to do that, James, out of Houston, Texas. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. That's
Good. Well,
good looking forward to this.
as we know, you're a realtor. How long have you been a realtor?
Since 2020.
Okay. You're not quite a rookie, but you're not quite a veteran, I don't think.
Exactly.
I don't know what.
I'm right in the sweet spot, right in the middle.
You are on the sweet spot. I don't know what they consider a veteran, and I don't know what
I'm
they
past
consider.
the 3 year. I think what they say, right? I think I'm past the 3 year bump. I think a majority of agents don't make it past 3 years. So once I passed that, I was like, all right, I'm doing this thing.
So let's talk about this. 2020, man, right in the middle of COVID. Is that when you decided to be a realtor?
It is. It is. Best timing, right? I think had I been able to look at my little magic ball prior, you go, all right. It was a good timing, although a little chaotic. And obviously, I am one of thousands of people that jumped into real estate because of interest rates, everything that happened. I did not jump into real estate because of that. And we'll talk more about that, but the timing was all God's, and I'm super thankful to have been brought in. And then it was kind of just a fire hose. I mean, I think I did 35 transactions my first year, and there was no way of better learning this industry than having 35 different type of transactions where I can learn from A to Z the do's and don'ts and the way to communicate, not communicate. So it was great. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. What industry were you in before real estate? What were you doing?
So I was business development, marketing, sales. So I did business development and at a financial planning company, and I liked the people building relationship aspect. I think I've always been good at that. I've always had a heart for other people. And so I haven't, but I'm somebody who I'm very skeptical to drink Kool-Aid from companies. I just feel like I'm not that I have trust issues, but I definitely was like, you know what, I need this to be me. And I can't necessarily be me sometimes when certain companies or certain groups have certain structure or whatever else. And so I'm constantly just kind of using that vessel to build relationships and continue to build myself up. And so I was in financial planning, doing business development, bringing in people to that office, and it was great. And I've actually, funny enough, a lot of people that I met during that time I was doing it have become clients, have become referral sources. So, it just shows you kind of where you meet people all in life. And, and every single one of them who I did bring in to do business with there, all have told me, man, you are right where you need to be. This is the perfect industry for you. So it's just kind of constant reminders that I'm right in the right spot.
Well, that's awesome, man. So you just switched. What did you switch because of COVID, or
no? So I was on the prowl. Again, I hadn't really bought into company culture. And I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. There was a pathway for me there to continue. And I considered that. I considered all routes. I just didn't feel. It was just one of those feelings. I just had a gut feeling that this wasn't my end all. This wasn't where I was supposed to be. And I couldn't shake it, And so I actually prior to COVID, I spent a good 2 years talking to people, interviewing, trying to figure out what my next play was. I know it sounds crazy, but it took me that long. And I debated different things, and it was a 2 year process to come to where I'm at now. And what ended up happening was I was trying to get my LO license to become a mortgage officer like yourself. And it was in that process that one of the guys I was planning on working with, his wife, who'd become a friend of mine, she was in real estate. And she told me that I should drop that and I should come work with her. And I said, they just, I don't know, and she was just, I always had this very different perspective of real estate. But when she kind of brought it to me and said, you would be so good at all these things that are in this business, and you would be very different and unique. And I think that you would thrive there. And she goes, and you and I would work well together. And so I went home. She told me to go home and pray about it. And then that night I went home, I prayed about it. The next day I rolled over. My wife rolled over at the same time and said, you have to do this. And so I got out of bed, got on my computer and signed up for real estate classes then. And then there was no looking back after that. So I had a little in between time. I was doing classes during the weekends and evenings to get done with my credits. And then once I was finally done and with that, there was a slight overlap. But I hadn't had my license yet. And I didn't have my license yet, but there was a point where I had to leave my job. So I just said, all right, I'm going all in on this. I don't even have security yet. I don't even know that I have my license yet, but I'm going all in on this. And I did that, and it was a very freeing process. And once I took my test and passed it all, it was just from there. It became just I saw what work was meant to be. And I really just felt like I was in the right spot. And then this Pandora's box of all these people who, ever since I graduated from college with my media degree, because I was going to go be a reporter and decided not to do that. And so once I started, all these people told me I should do insurance or I should do real estate. And a lot of people would tell me you should do real estate. And the first person I met with when I graduated from college and decided not to do media, she's a good family friend who's been in real estate a long time. She said, you should come do real estate. You would do so well. You would kill it. But I just wasn't ready to hear it yet. I think that God had to use that time frame to really help me build the discipline to be able to run my own business like I am. And so I learned a lot in that back time, kind of pre real estate, that has really helped me be successful now. So.
So first year, 35 deals. Where those deals come from? How'd you get them? Because that's amazing.
So I would say about 25-30% of those deals came from, no, yeah. Um, let's say, we'll say 20-25% of those deals came from within the team. Came over from Laura, whether whether it's just she was swamped and she handed me some stuff. The rest came from my own personal network. The moment I announced that I joined real estate, I mean, I was getting calls and texts from people I haven't talked to in 20 years who are like, this is where you got to be. This is perfect. Let's talk. So I had a lot of my own sphere that was reaching out to me. Also, I was hustling. I mean, I was working open houses. My very first transaction was an open house I held for Laura, which ended up, it was funny because that was actually some mutual friends of ours. So I actually knew them. But first open house, the very first people that walked in, they ended up buying that house and I got to represent them. So it was really cool. But I've built up a lot of my pipeline of people I met during that season where everyone was flocking to open houses and flocking to houses. And I got to meet so many unrepresented people and build relationships with them. And so that really helped me expedite my book of business for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so for those out there that don't know, 2020, 2021 was an anomaly in our industry. It's the best 2 years, I think, in recorded history of real estate transactions. Most volume, most transactions, most everything. They say that, anybody in real estate, you were basically printing money at the time. Fast forward today, November 1st, 2024. The market's a little bit different, isn't it, James?
It is. It is.
Um,
Uh,
So let's talk about that.
yeah.
Where you, I don't go into too much in numbers, but you're doing well, even the last 2 years where it's been a little bit off. I think that I read somewhere the other day that 60% of the realtors out there sold one or less deals for the entire year. That's a lot. I mean, and as you know, there's been an attrition of realtors and mortgage people out. Just in my industry alone, a couple years ago there was 350,000 loan officers. Today there's only 80,000. Real estate, I expect a lot more attrition after not renewing their license and everything else. It's been a tough market the last couple of years, but there's still a market.
Right.
What are you doing out there the last couple of years to maintain those numbers, to keep those numbers up, and everything else?
Yeah, I started to see obviously a I started to see that open houses were not nearly as busy. So you're like,
No.
okay, how do you how do you meet new people, right? What and how are you doing? And for me, I was like, okay, well, you can only lean on your personal sphere of friends, family,
Yeah.
uh, colleagues, things like that. You can only lean on that for so long, right? Because that only makes up a certain portion of your business. And yes, you want to get referrals, but I think the last couple of years, there has been um, there has been I would say a fair mixture of referrals, open houses. It's very hard. I don't think I've actually ever had somebody that's like, oh, I love your marketing and your social media. I want to work with you, right? I mean, people are like, no, I know of you because of so and so. And so I think that a big portion of my business has come from referrals of my network.
Yeah.
And so which is good. And you have to ask for them because if you don't ask, but again, it's not necessarily something people are not going out and trying to find you business.
Yeah.
People in passing and in conversations when they're having dinner with some friends, they're like, "Oh, we're thinking about moving." They're like, "Well, you should call so and so." So yeah, I think that like I've just learned through communication and how to help people, direct people my way has been a good tool. But yeah, I would say that a majority of the business I've gotten has been referral based, and then I still plug in some of the new people I meet out and about. And yeah,
Awesome. Hey, what percentage of your business is first time homebuyers?
first time home buyers. 90% of my business probably is first time home buyers.
Oh wow, wow.
Maybe
Where do
I
you?
mean I mean maybe 80%, 89%. I can't I mean yeah, because I've had a fair share of listings.
Yeah.
But I'm not by no means do I advertise myself as the listing agent. I do it. I enjoy that. I would love more of it, but first time home buyers, I would say that I mean on the buyers, like I'm a buyer's agent, I would say. And then I would say that from a first time home buyer, let's go back. I'm gonna retract myself. I'm gonna say 75%. Because I think it's where I'm at in um, my life. I mean, I'm 35, right? And so I still have an associate with a lot of younger people who again are first time home buyers. And so I have helped a lot of people who are empty nesters. I've helped a lot of people um, that are uh, moving or have had multiple houses and just enjoy buying. I've helped some investors, but I would say that a lot of, at least up to this point, a lot of first time home buyers.
So yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So for the longest time, baby boomers made up the largest consumer of people consuming goods and data. Right? They are no longer. All the corporations have now switched to millennials and Gen Z. I think what are you, a Gen Z, right? Considered? Is
No,
that
I'm a
right?
millennial.
Okay, you're a millennial. Okay. So with that being said, the reason why they
You
switched to
know,
millennial and
right?
Gen Z is I believe they make up 75 million of the population. And that 75 million, they're looking to buy their house for the first time. That's between the age of 29 to 35. Right there in your sweet spot, right there
Right,
in your age group, right?
right,
That expected to buy in the next couple of years.
right.
75 million. Last time
Yep.
I checked, James, there's not 75 million houses out there.
Nope.
But with that being said, that's a lot of first-time home buyers. I think they're again because of the largest group, they're taking over the market. What do you say to that first-time home buyer that's renting out there? Because the average rent out there is what, $2,000 or $3,000, and they come to you and they say, because we get this a lot, man, I don't think I can afford a house. Isn't that the number one
Wait,
thing?
what was the number you just gave me?
$2,000 to $3,000 is their average rent. It seems like, if not more.
Yeah, yep, yep.
I
I
mean,
would
I
say,
have people up, paying $1,800 to $2,000 for a one-bedroom apartment. You
oh
know,
yeah, no, it's okay. So the question is, what do you say to a first time home buyer
Yeah, that
who's
says I can't, I don't think I can afford a house. Because I know you get that a lot when you say, hey,
oh
you're
yeah.
Britain, you thought about buying a house. That's probably the number one thing you get, right? Is, hey, I don't think I can afford a house.
Right. That's where that's where I tee up someone like you. That's where I say, you know what? I think that you could probably afford more than you realize.
Yeah,
And if you've never gone down that path or even explored, it's worth having a conversation. It's completely free to you to have to talk to a lender, to have them run numbers, to tell you what you would qualify for. Because I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of things that go into it. But I mean, in in today's world, it's like a lot of people can, and I've had that conversation where people go, I really can't afford it. I'm like, well, or people call me and they're like, hey, we want to, find a new rental. And I'm like, well, have you thought about buying? Like, I'm just gonna throw that out there. And they're like, yeah, but we don't think we can't afford this much. And I know what they do. And I'm like, well, there may be, you may be able to afford more than you realize. Because people think that they can't afford because of maybe debt, maybe savings built up, maybe it's their income,
hmm,
right? Their expenses. But when it all comes into play, it's all of that plays into creating that number. And so a lot of people they don't think they can, and then they go and get all their numbers plugged in, and they're like, oh, wait a second, I actually can afford a decent sized house. Now, in today's age, and today's like right now where we're at, depending on what market and what city and neighborhood you're in, I mean, yes, right? Like you're not gonna be able to afford certain neighborhoods, especially here in Houston. There's a lot of neighborhoods that the from 2021 to now, the price of the neighborhood has gone up by $100,000. So
sure.
so it's just you are going to be priced out of certain areas. But by looking at what you could afford now and what that would look like from a monthly expense compared to continuing to pay rent and allowing these neighborhoods that are continuing to go up in price, watch them continue to go up to where you get priced out. It's like you're chasing this marker, but you're never going to actually get it. Where if you just like stay in place, then you're going to be building home equity. You're going to be building value in that. So yeah,
Yeah, I talk to a lot of first-time home buyers myself, and once we qualify them, it's really enlightening because they don't think they can, and there's also a lot of myths. It's so shocking. We're in the industry, we know because it's just common knowledge, but there's a lot of people that think I have to have 20% down to buy a house, and every time I hear that, I'm like, where did you? No, you do not. And then when you tell them, I can get you in as low as 3%. In fact, I can get you in as in as zero because
right,
there's programs today with down payment assistance program where you can basically walk into a house and just start making payments with zero down with a little bit of help from the realtor negotiating closing costs. My down payment assistance program, there is no closing costs.
right.
So there's a lot of different programs out there that can help that first time home
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think the expense stresses people out. But again, there's a way. I like the creativity of finding the way, right? Because
buyer.
there is a way to make it happen.
Well, and the secondary, I think too, is people think this is their forever house, their first house. And you have to remind them this is the chance of you being in this house forever is zero to none.
Right.
It's slim pickings. This is a beginner house. This, if you do it right and build generational wealth with real estate, you stay in this house 3 to 5 years, take the equity in that, move into your next house, and it may be one or two houses before you come into your forever house. It may be four houses, five houses,
Yep.
but that's some of the conversations we've had with first time home buyers, and they don't, and they go, oh, you know what, you're right. This is not my forever house. Let me. Secondary thing. How many people do you know that gets into a 30-year mortgage that pays that mortgage off for 30 years? Zero.
Zero.
Because one of two things is going to happen. You're going to pull out the equity. You're either going to sell it, or you're going to, if you do stay in the house, you're going to refinance it to a 10 or 15 years down the road to shorten the term. So
Right.
it's just, all those things are just temporary things that they just don't know about. They think,
Right.
oh, I'm in. I got to pay this mortgage for 30 years, and they don't know about
Yeah.
refinances. They don't know about a lot of the things that we take for granted.
Right. And I think pre-pandemic, right, the first-time home buyer was living in their house 3 to 5 years max. I mean,
Yeah.
then they were moving on. Now, I think because of the pandemic and because of where people bought their houses at interest rates, people are staying a lot longer. I think that needle has moved up a little bit more. But again, life happens, and you buy this starter home and you buy this first house and you think, and it happens all the time. It happens all the time. I have first time home buyers who are always like, oh, we're going to be in here for the next 20 years. And you're like, you know, you're
Yeah.
going to go and have three children, and then this 2,100 square foot, three-bedroom house is going to be very small. You know, it's like it's just people forget that life happens, and that you need to then get more space, get bigger, and so it's just yeah, it's goofy.
Well, I read a stat today, James. You'll like this stat. Anybody that bought a house in 2019 to now, the average equity built into that house is $158,000.
I'd
Imagine
say
that. Where
it's
else are
probably
you
about
gonna?
yeah,
Where else are you gonna grow $158,000 in 5 years?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well, that was a
it's
freak. Now you remember, you know,
yeah, that's an anomaly. We got 20,
that's a
2021 that
phenomenon,
that
but
inflated.
in the right neighborhood, and the right neighborhood shifts. I mean, it that's very. I mean, my neighborhood. When I bought my neighborhood, I mean, my neighborhood, you were buying houses in the mid fives. People are now spending $800,000 in my neighborhood,
Yeah,
and that was
and
4 years.
with
That was
and
four
that was
years.
4 years ago. So yeah, that was no again 2021.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, no, it's remarkable how much things have shifted and changed, and think that I think that as the Fed continues to drop rates, I think after we get past the election, I think that as we move into next year, I foresee. I mean, you know, springtime's always busy, anyways, because
Right.
especially like when you live in Dallas or Houston. I mean, you have these big cities that people have to people have to move, people have to buy, people have to sell. It happens, and so I think that I think we will start seeing, especially as interest rates continue to kind of go down again. I think that we will start seeing not only home prices continue to go up, but we'll start seeing more of a demand, and hopefully more inventory.
Yeah, no, I saw the bankers convention, national convention was last week in Denver, and they came back and said they're expecting a 25% increase in 2025
Yep.
from 2024. So total mortgages were supposed to be like at 2.45 trillion dollars. So 25% increase with less people in the market. So there should be, I think there's a lot of pent up demand for real estate.
Right.
I think 2025 is going to be a very busy year.
I agree. I agree. So.
So let's talk about the family life, James. I know, but let's let the audience know. You got a Mrs. Brown out there. You got kids.
I do. I do. So you know, it's funny. So our motto mission statement here in our group is faith, family, and making real estate fun, in that order. And we prioritize our families. I think something that I have learned over time is um, that you can't get time back, especially time with your family, and like family comes first. And so you know, you can work your schedule around your family. And now there's sometimes where there's things that are pressing that you have to take care of, but for a lot of times, I'm working my schedule around family time. I'm working my schedule around things where okay, I might have to sacrifice some evenings to be on the computer, or I may have to do this. But guess what? That means that when my kids are home from school, I get to be present. I get to eat dinner with them. I get to put them down. I get to play with them, and and I'm not distracted. And so I have a wife of 7 years, Madeline, and then I have a 3.5-year-old daughter named Emma Grace. And then I have a just turned two this past weekend, a year old boy, Austin. And it is a fun time in our house. Let me tell you, we are full in it. They're about 18 months apart, and they're best little friends. It's so sweet to watch them, but they're right in this sweet spot now where they play together, and they play together nicely. So it's kind of like, okay, we can kind of like, we're still kind of keeping an eye on them. And my wife were here, she would tell you no, we're watching them all the time. But you know, it's like we can allow them to play a little bit, you know, independently, and know that like they're playing together. And so it's a blast. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's your hobbies, James? What do you do for fun
All right.
besides family?
Yeah, it's so goofy. My wife and I had this conversation a few weeks ago, because we were talking because we were actually talking about hobbies because she and I were like, man, we need to get some more hobbies. We need to get some hobbies, like something that we like enjoy doing. Because you know, there's people. I mean, I enjoy, and I think I came to the conclusion. I thought about this. I think that my hobby is doing and being with people whatever they like doing. I know that sounds dumb, but like I have a group of friends that like fishing. I'll go fishing. Guess what? I know how to fish. Maybe not well, but I know how to do it. And like I enjoy that company. Hunting. Look, I can go hunting. I know how to hunt. I have a gun. Like hey, you know what? But it's like it's not like, this is opening season or, it's like, this weekend is like opening weekend for something. Don't ask me, but it's like someone invited me to go hunting. I would totally go hunting with them, because it's about getting to spend time with that person, not necessarily about the sport. Same with the golf. I'm not a great golfer, but I'll go do it. So, I think that is my hobby because I love hanging out with people and my friends and getting to meet new people. And so getting to go and do what they enjoy, I'm all for it. But other than that, like I don't go spend hours on the golf course by myself or like trying to pick up a game, or I don't go I don't do this. I mean, I like to cook. So I do all the majority of the cooking in our house, mainly because when we first got married, I realized that I was a jerk in the kitchen, and I had certain ways I like to cook, and so but I also use that as like my love language of acts of service. And so being able to prepare and like cook and create something, like I find like that being in the kitchen helps me be creative. So I'm always creating new recipes and new things. And so that's pretty fun. I enjoy that. And then I think that, I have a routine. I like to exercise every morning. I have a group of guys I work out with in the morning. I wouldn't say necessarily working out is my hobby. I think it's important, but I found it as part of the routine. It's something that I enjoy. So yeah, so that is and I'm a goofy person. So a lot, if you go follow me on my social media, James Brown Holmes, you'll see that there's just a lot of content I create that's just very it's sporadic. That's the best word to say. I'm ADHD, and you could tell by my social media. You go to some people and you see that they have just great formatting and all their stuff is just boom, 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 boom. And you see my stuff, it is all over the place, but people like it. People enjoy it. That's what they enjoy about me. That's what I'm being told. And so, yeah, so it's always fun, getting to create stuff. And I've always been like that. I've always loved being funny. I've shockingly, maybe not shockingly, but I have a costume box. I have two costume boxes, that from over time of just having lots of ideas and videos and costumes. So yeah, so I wouldn't say necessarily it's a hobby, but it's something that I enjoy doing. And now that I have children, it gives me even more of an excuse to dress up. So
Oh, I love it. So I have a little bit older kids. My kids are 14 and 16, and I'm the same way. I have an entire closet full of different costumes from over the years, and I love to embarrass my kids and go out there. Wait till your kids are older, you can do the same with them.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. And my kid, I have no embarrassment level either. So it's like I could go out in public fully. There's a video of me. It's on my Instagram. It's on my YouTube. It's a picture of me. I did it back when I was volunteering with Young Life here in Houston. I dressed up as an elf and I went around the Houston Galleria doing stupid things. And this was before all the like. I mean, I want to say that I'm the first person that did this. I think if you backdate the time and stamp of YouTube, you can Google Elf remakes, whatever, people doing it all over the place. I did it first. I'm just gonna claim it, but because I have not embarrassed at all. My embarrassed meter is very 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 low. So uh,
I love it. Fun James the Realtor. That's what I'm gonna call you, James.
yeah, fun James. Yeah.
Fun James. Well, James, it's Friday. We can sit here and talk to you all day, but obviously you have a lot of people that want your attention, and you gotta go out there and show people houses and stuff like that. But
They're
before,
lining out the door. They're lining out the door as we
oh,
speak.
they are. I know they are. So, with that being said, what did we not talk about today that we should have talked about, James? Is there anything we missed?
I think that it's important to remember that it's okay if you're a first-time home buyer. It's actually okay if you do not buy. You don't have to feel the pressure. Something that I decided. I've seen a lot of good and bad and managers and just brokers, things like that in the past, and it just seems like there's a lot of people out there that are looking out for their best interests and what's best for their pocketbook. And that's something that I did not want to portray or do. So there's a lot of times where I'll have somebody who's looking to be who's a first time home buyer, and after kind of looking at some houses, looking at kind of where they're actually at financially, sometimes I'm like, guys, it may make more sense for y'all to rent for another year, build up this savings, be able to do this, blah, blah. Because even though, we can never know what the economy is going to do, right? We can never know this what the market's going to do. But like, it may be wise for y'all to do that. And some people tell me I shoot myself in the foot for doing that. I've talked some people out of buying and actually renting, and people are like, "Well, that's not because that's they're like, you're not gonna make as much money." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not what's best for me. It's what's best for them. And if I'm in the people serving business, I need to serve them the way that I would want to be served." And so I think that's important that first-time home buyers do know that it's okay if you're not ready, and don't let somebody pressure you into that because this needs to be something that you are excited about. This needs to be something that, and you need to find if me or somebody else, you need to make sure that whoever you're working with is also has your best interest at heart and is communicating with you and you're communicating with them. Because at the end of this thing, they're going to be unemployed again, right? So we're unemployed every 30 days. But you need to make sure that they have your best interest at heart and they're fighting for you. And so I think that's really important message that people know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's big, man. Man, you're a great realtor because not every realtor thinks like that. So,
Well,
I mean, if you're looking for houses out there in Houston, there's only one person I'd talk to, and that's James Brown. So,
yeah.
I know that people want to find you, James. So, if the people out there want to find you, how do they find you?
You know what? You call the bat phone here. 713-829-2516. Say that
And if
again.
you're watching on here, you probably saw that go across on the lower thirds. So I'm David. I'm with the Mortgage Edge. If you're looking for a great realtor out in the Houston area, call James Brown. He cares. He's a man of faith. He has a family, and he's fun. So call James if you're looking for real estate out there. Well, thanks for being on our podcast today. I'm David Wynn with the Mortgage Edge. We'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.